What if an entire army could be crushed without ever seeing the enemy? That's precisely what happened in 217 BC, when Hannibal Barca, the Carthaginian general, executed one of history's most brilliant ambushes at Lake Trasimene. He turned a foggy valley into a deadly trap, hiding thousands of soldiers along the hills while the Romans marched right into it. In just a few hours, over 15,000 Roman soldiers were killed or captured, while Hannibal's army suffered very few losses. In this video, we'll explore how this masterful ambush became one of history's most remarkable military victories. Prelude to the ambush. It was the year 217 BC during the Second Punic War, the brutal contest between Rome, the dominant Mediterranean power, and Carthage, the proud North African empire led by Hannibal Barca. Months before the battle, Hannibal had stunned the world with his daring march across the Alps. Snow, avalanches, and starvation had decimated his army, yet his resolve never broke. By the time he descended into Italy, his army was smaller but unshakably loyal. Veterans forged in hardship. They followed a man who had endured every pain they had, who shared their food, cold, and danger. By the end of 218 BC, Hannibal's lightning victories at the river Ticinus and Trebia sent shockwaves through Rome. These weren't mere wins, they were humiliations. Roman pride was wounded, and the Senate vowed revenge. Two new consuls were appointed, Gaius Flaminius and Gnaeus Servilius, to crush the invader once and for all. Rome's plan and Hannibal's countermove. Rome's plan looked perfect on parchment. Servilius would approach from the east, Flaminius from the west, and together they would squeeze Hannibal's forces between them. But Hannibal understood Rome's psychology better than anyone. He knew Roman commanders often mistook aggression for strategy and arrogance for courage. Rather than confront them head-on, he vanished into the flooded marshes of the Arno River. It was a torturous journey. Men waded waist-deep in stagnant water for days, unable to light fires or rest. Many fell ill or drowned in the mud. Hannibal himself lost sight in one eye to infection, but he pressed forward. When he emerged near Cortona, south of Flaminius's position, he had achieved the impossible again. He was behind the Roman lines, between Flaminius and Rome itself. His enemy, unaware, now faced the wrong direction. Flaminius takes the bait. When word reached Flaminius that Hannibal had slipped past him, he exploded in anger. To him, this wasn't just a tactical error, it was a humiliation. He had sworn to protect Italy, and now Hannibal was burning villages and looting farms in his own province. Hannibal knew Flaminius's pride would blind him. So, he set the stage perfectly. His troops raided visible areas along the road toward Perugia, leaving behind scattered loot, broken wagons, and trampled earth, all signs of a fleeing enemy. To the impatient Roman consul, it looked like Hannibal was retreating in panic. Without scouting the terrain or waiting for Servilius to join him, Flaminius ordered an immediate march at dawn. The Roman army, nearly 30,000 strong, advanced quickly, eager for revenge. The road they took was narrow, squeezed between the waters of Lake Trasimene and steep, wooded hills. The morning fog thickened as they moved, reducing visibility. The clink of armor and the creak of wagons echoed strangely. Flaminius pressed them on, unaware that death surrounded them on every side. The ambush unfolds. Roman army advanced along the narrow road. Hannibal's forces lay in wait. Positioned in the hills surrounding the lake, they remained hidden, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Suddenly, the Carthaginian forces descended upon the Romans from all sides. The narrow road and thick fog disoriented the Roman soldiers, making it impossible for them to form a coherent defense. The Carthaginian cavalry attacked from the rear, while infantry forces engaged from the front and flanks. Caught in a deadly pincer movement, the Roman army was overwhelmed. The terrain and weather conditions worked in favor of Hannibal's meticulously planned ambush. Aftermath and legacy. The Battle of Lake Trasimene resulted in a crushing defeat for the Roman army. Estimates of Roman casualties vary, but it is believed that between 15,000 and 25,000 Romans were killed or captured. The Carthaginians, on the other hand, reportedly lost only about 2,500 men. This victory solidified Hannibal's reputation as one of history's greatest military tacticians. Military historian Basil Liddell Hart called the Battle of Trasimene the greatest ambush in history. The Roman Senate, shaken by the magnitude of the defeat, adopted the Fabian strategy, avoiding confrontation with Hannibal and relying on attrition tactics to wear down the Carthaginian forces. Despite this setback, Rome would eventually recover and go on to defeat Hannibal at the Battle of Zama in 202 BC, marking the end of the Second Punic War. The trap at Lake Trasimene. The valley north of Lake Trasimene was the perfect killing ground. On one side lay the calm, reflective surface of the lake. On the other, dense hills blanketed in trees and brush. The winding road curved gently through the valley, wide enough for marching men but too narrow for formation or retreat. Days before the Romans arrived, Hannibal had carefully chosen this ground. His Iberian and Gallic infantry hid along the ridges overlooking the road, crouched in silence among the trees. Their shields were darkened, their armor covered with leaves and mud to hide the glint of metal. His African troops waited behind the hills, ready to push forward at his command, and his swift Numidian cavalry hid farther down the path, sealing the exit. It was a masterpiece of preparation. Not a single campfire revealed its position. Even the horses were kept silent. For an entire night, thousands of men crouched in stillness, waiting for the Roman legions to walk into their jaws. As the first Roman columns entered the valley, Hannibal's men could hear the faint rattle of armor and the rhythmic thump of marching feet. The Romans believed they were closing in on a retreating enemy. In truth, they were surrounded. The signal for destruction. From his vantage point above the valley, Hannibal waited until the entire Roman column had entered the pass. Then, as the last ranks disappeared into the fog, he gave the signal. In an instant, the hills erupted. Thousands of warriors surged down the slopes, roaring their battle cries. Spears rained from above, shields splintered, and confusion swallowed the Roman ranks. Flaminius' soldiers had no idea where the attack was coming from. They turned toward the hills, and were struck from the flanks. They turned toward the lake and were cut off from behind. In moments, the disciplined Roman line dissolved into chaos. A battle in the fog. Flaminius galloped through the confusion, shouting orders that vanished in the roar of combat. Soldiers stumbled over fallen comrades, swinging blindly at shapes in the mist. Trumpets blared, men screamed, and the once proud legions broke apart like waves against rock. On one flank, Iberian infantry smashed through the Roman center with curved swords, cutting deep into their formation. On another, Gallic warriors burst from the fog, hacking down anything in their path. The Numidian horsemen swept behind the Roman rear, blocking the escape route and cutting down anyone who tried to flee. The lake hemmed the Romans on one side, the hills on the other. There was no room to fight, no line to hold, no direction to run. For hours, the battle raged unseen within the fog. A massacre hidden by nature itself. Flaminius fought desperately, but was struck down amid the chaos. Some soldiers tried to swim across the lake, but drowned under the weight of their armor. Others fled into the marshes, only to be hunted down by cavalry. A 3-hour massacre. When the fog finally lifted, the horror of what had happened became visible. The valley was carpeted with Roman dead, nearly 15,000 bodies lying where they fell. Thousands more were captured, only a few hundred escaped. Hannibal's army suffered around 1,500 casualties, most of them Gauls fighting in the front lines. He had achieved total victory, destroying a Roman army without ever allowing it to form ranks or use its numbers. The valley was silent now, except for the cries of the wounded and the lapping of the lake against the shore. The trap had been perfect. Swift, merciless, and absolute. Aftermath of the ambush. When the battle ended, Hannibal stood on the ridge, watching smoke rise from the valley. His men cheered, but he remained calm, knowing he had not only destroyed an army, but also shattered Rome's confidence. He ordered a proper burial for Flaminius, though the consul's body was never found among the thousands. In the following days, Hannibal released many captured Italians, declaring his war was against Rome, not its allies. A humane act and a clever move to sway Italy against its rulers. News of the disaster slowly reached Rome. When a praetor finally reported to the Senate, he said only 8 words. "There has been a great battle. We have been defeated." The city fell silent. Mothers wept, widows mourned, and the Senate trembled. Rome had lost not just a consul and an army, but its sense of invincibility. Hannibal's ambush at Lake Trasimene was pure genius. He utilized the fog and the valley to trap the Romans, transforming the land itself into a formidable weapon. With careful planning, timing, and understanding his enemy, he crushed Rome while keeping his losses low. It wasn't just a victory. It was a lesson in strategy, patience, and the power of clever thinking. Could a commander today execute an ambush as brilliant and decisive as Hannibal's, or is that level of strategy a thing of the past? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you loved this video and want more epic history, like, share, and subscribe for incredible battles and insights.